It is a weather impact alert here at Channel 13 and across central Indiana. We've got some heat chances and storm chances. We're going to break it down for you. I'm 13 News meteorologist Matt Standridge. All morning long for your Thursday, we were tracking this warm front that lifted right through Indianapolis. Now, we even had a couple pop-up downpours right around 2, 3 o'clock in the morning with some lightning strikes or so. But most of those have faded. Now we're just getting a nice south wind across the state. Mainly thanks to really two different things. We have high pressure towards the Gulf Coast. You got winds spiraling around those clockwise, and so those are pumping north into the Ozarks and right up the Ohio River Valley. And then towards the west, you have the other flow. You've got low pressure with counterclockwise flow, and that also helps to bring a south wind right over us. We're going to have some gusts up to about 30 miles per hour today, and those south winds are going to warm us up into the upper 80s. Our record high for Indy today, 88. We're going with 87. We were right there. We could easily hit 88 for sure. But it's going to be a hot and a humid day. All the downpours we've had the past couple of days will now feed the humidity that we're expected throughout your Thursday. So a couple different things I want to highlight. This warm front will continue to lift north and will probably park somewhere northern Indiana, right over Michiana and southern Michigan later this evening. As it does so, we could spark some hailstorms. We think there's really a chance for some severe storms anywhere in Indiana, but there may only be about 3 or 4 across the state. Not everyone's going to get a storm today. They'll be very hit or miss. There could be a slight more concentration there towards northern Indiana just because the front will be sitting there, kind of like a magnet for them. We'll watch for that, but anyone does have a chance for a storm. Everyone's got the chance for the heat and humidity, but there may be some pop-ups from 8 o'clock all the way through midnight. This cold front finally will bring us back to average weather. We should be in the 70s, not upper 80s, or heat index in the 90s. That's where we're going today. Back to the 70s, we'll have that weather starting on Saturday. So in the meantime, we're going to be warm and humid. All this air continues to build right over the Ozarks, and it could be used for thunderstorm initiation to spark them, get some big ones across parts of central and northern Indiana. So the front will continue to move off to the north, bringing us more heat. So because of the heat and the humidity, got a lot of ingredients in place in order to produce severe weather. Much of Indiana is in a level 2 severe threat out of 5, so still kind of on the lower scale. But we get to a level 3, you get to Peru, and you get just north of Rensselaer into northwest Indiana, Fort Wayne, up to Michiana and South Bend. They have that level 3. Once again, we think just because we got a boundary that's going to sit there, that warm front will be sitting there, that could help produce more of the storms up to the north, or at least foster them, at least make sure that they can continue to survive a little bit, because we may have a couple develop across parts of Illinois and then they'll move eastbound over time. But we could get a storm all the way south to Jeffersonville or Evansville, all the way south to the Ohio River Valley. And so we'll be watching a couple of these pop-ups throughout the day today after 8 o'clock. In the meantime, most of the day is dry. In fact, most of the day is just going to be a summery day. We'll have the sun out there, mix of sun and clouds, and highs well into the 80s, but there will be a stiff south wind. It's almost going to feel like a blow dryer is just right on you, and it's going to be right over Indiana to warm us up. But it's when you factor in the humidity that we get some crazy numbers like 93 is what it may feel like in Indianapolis later today. It is going to be toasty. It is going to be steamy, but it will be dry most of the day. Not really until 8 o'clock that we get some of these storm chances, and those will last through midnight to about 1 o'clock. That is our highest chance for severe weather. Now, could there be a stray pop-up somewhere across Indiana beforehand? Sure. But if we had to kind of give you a ballpark time when the best chance of getting a couple pop-ups would be, it would be after 8 o'clock. So we have the heat and humidity first, and then a couple pop-up storms, but there literally may only be 2, 3, 4 cells across Indiana. The problem, though, is because there's so much fuel, those individual storms could be really intense. They'd probably be rogue storms, kind of just doing their own thing, but there's going to be a lot of lightning and potentially some large hail in those cells. We're talking about large hail, we could be talking about 2 inches. It'd be about the size of anywhere between a golf ball to a tennis ball. So pretty large hail. That'll do some damage if you get underneath one of those hail swaths. So we'll watch for those. We do think the highest threat is in northern and western Indiana. Farther east you go, these cells may slowly weaken just a little bit, but we're not out of the woods. But if we had to kind of concentrate, it'd be western and northern Indiana. There could also be a tornado or 2 across Indiana. These cells will be nasty, the ones that do pop up, but there'll only be a few. A lot of us are going to stay dry. a lot of us will have quiet weather conditions other than warm weather and some windy weather. So that's why you want to make sure you're monitoring the radar this evening. We'll have updates here on WTHR Plus and on YouTube throughout the evening as well, giving you the latest on what we're thinking and where we're starting to see maybe a couple storm cells trying to develop. What really is the problem today is something called a cap. That's what we call in meteorology. Really, it's a warm bubble of air above our heads. What it does is it helps to limit your storm growth. Can't get storms, you have too much of a cap. Now, it's pretty strong today, but we're headed to the upper 80s. Something eventually has to give. And there could be weak spots in that cap, which means that warm bubble of air, some cooler temperatures here and there. If we can do that, that's where we will pop the storms. We think the highest chances will be from Indy North and Indy West, but we'll be watching that chance. I don't think we'll be able to pop it too much, though, in the middle part of the day through the afternoon. It really will be closer to 8 o'clock and onward that will have some of those storm chances. So let's walk through these rain zones. We don't really have much for your morning. We should be dry the rest of the morning. Now in the afternoon, once we get that heat and humidity to build, this is 20% chance. It's small. Most of the storms will be later this evening. But not everyone has an equal chance either. We think there's going to be a higher concentration north, higher concentration south. And we're looking at these chances, essentially, let's say this 40% chance that we have in Avon and Brownsburg and Crawfordsville. That's a 40% chance that you'll get some rain. There's a 60% chance you don't. In fact, there's a better chance you don't get a storm than you do get a storm, at least what it seems right now. So what this means is a lot of us are going to be sitting here, I didn't get a storm. Yeah, that's probably going to be the case for a lot of us. But whoever gets the big storm, those won't be so good. They'll be probably pretty intense. There might even be a little bit of a weaker chance east of Indianapolis. Now, still not zero. I mean, there's still a 20% chance. It's just a little bit lower. The storms, maybe by the time they get here, will be a little bit weaker for us. We'll have to see. But everyone technically does have a chance. We're just kind of showing you where we think the radar will have a little bit more of a concentration. But sometimes in these situations where it's super volatile with high heat, high humidity, front off towards the west. The jet stream's not quite here, not really oriented very well. You got to there's a lot of factors at play, and so that's why we'll have only limited coverage. We'll have a couple rogue cells out there that are nasty. So I think we're going to be dry at IMS today. Thank goodness, because we've had a lot of rainy, kind of downpoury days the past couple of days, some mist at times too. Beautiful sunshine at the track. Now, we actually had a big downpour over the track. It was about 2 o'clock this morning. So we're dry now, but we'll stay dry throughout the day. It's just going to be hot there at the track. Make sure you got some water. We'll head well into the 80s. But gates are open for practice for viewers to come on in between 10 to 6. We also have a lot of high school games and practices, different events outside. And we have a weather impact alert today because of the high heat. I mean, this is something that we should probably more deal with in July, not necessarily in mid-May, but that's what we got. It's today and tomorrow with the heat. So we'll need the extra water there at a lot of our baseball, softball games. Hamilton County has a huge invitational for boys track tonight. And then we got golf. So there's a lot going on. Girls tennis, so busy, but especially for, these outside sports, you just got to really watch on a day like today. It's kind of like, we talk about this kind of stuff, especially football season, soccer season, going into late summer, early fall. But hey, we're talking about it here in May because we have that heat and humidity in a big way. Here's a look at Futuretrack 13. Now, the clouds, I think, are kind of overdoing it. We'll have a mix of sun and clouds. A lot of times these clouds will be pretty thin, so the sun should get through them pretty easily. We'll get well into the 80s, and yeah, there's a small chance for a spotty shower throughout the late afternoon and evening hours, but it's really after 8 o'clock. Here's actually 9 o'clock. I think, these could easily be a little bit farther forward. We'll have to see. But essentially, don't memorize exactly where these cells are. Just kind of notice a couple trends. So here's 9 o'clock. I think we'll get some of these stronger hailstorms. I think there'll be probably a few more breaks in the line than this. So you have individual cells, maybe 2, 3, maybe 4 or so. And maybe another pop-up or two. You can see, randomly you could get a pop-up really anywhere. Remember, this was our 20% chance zone. It's not zero, but it is lower, but we can get a pop-up anywhere. We just think there will be a bit of a better environment, and the jet stream will be a little bit stronger there towards the north. So here's 1 o'clock. A lot of this is getting out of here, and then we should be quiet throughout the rest of the overnight hours. Then Friday's another deal. By Friday, that cold front we were talking about actually is sitting right next to us. And as that happens, the jet stream will be over us. You take all this heat and humidity and we'll be better able to tap actually into it. The problem for your Thursday, It's a good thing, not necessarily a problem, but from the atmosphere's perspective, it could be a problem. But the good thing for your Thursday is that we can't tap into all the energy. It's there, just can't use it. On Friday, I think we'll be able to use it a little bit more. And so we'll take our severe zones from the north, then we'll kind of put them to the south like a pancake. We're flip-flopping everything. So the farther north you go with more rain and thunder, farther south you go, we have all severe threats: hail, wind, tornadoes, lightning, maybe even some flooding threats, because we're going to have just more widespread storms. I don't think they'll be moving particularly fast, so they could drop a lot of water too. They're not going to be stagnant either, but they might be a little bit slower. So that level 3 from Indy all the way to the south, all the way to Louisville. So we'll have to watch out for that. Here's a look at Friday. I think kind of like Thursday, we start off dry. It should be a nice day. Hot and humid, highs going well into the 80s. I think our record for Friday is about 90 degrees. We'll be close. Again, here's 4 o'clock. Things start getting really active. We'll have scattered clusters of heavy rain storms, and some of them will be severe. There will be a little bit of rotation in the atmosphere too, so tornadoes are something that we'll have to watch out for. But I think if you had to pick a threat, it'd probably be hail. Again, there's just, when you get energy like this, when it's so hot, you can produce massive hail. The thing is, we probably have hail the size of melons up to the parts of the sky. They don't fall as melons though, because it's so warm that a lot of it melts. So the question is, how much does it melt? And we think a lot of times we'll melt it down to between a golf ball to maybe enough to a tennis ball sized hail. So that'll do some damage, but there'll be these clusters of storms pushing on through. Here's 6 o'clock, scattered severe storms likely. I still think there's still a couple chances even after 8 o'clock. You're looking at 8 o'clock. There could still be a few more kind of passing on by. By about 10 o'clock, parts of central Indiana really should be drying out, but we may still have some of these leftovers in parts of southern Indiana, but still clipping parts of Bedford and Seymour. So we'll have to watch for that. You put all that together, weather impact alert for Thursday and Friday. It's going to be warm, it's going to be sticky, it's going to feel humid out there. Much of the daylight hours are dry, especially on Thursday. Thursday's our smaller rain chance out of the two. It's just if you get that one cell, watch out. On Friday, we'll have more widespread cells. Jet streams over us. It will help create more thunderstorms, we think. They'll be bigger, they'll be more widespread. But when they're more widespread, maybe some cells don't all have to be intense. The ones we think on Thursday could be very intense, most of them. But on Friday, some of them will and some of them won't. You kind of share the energy a little bit more. But there's the front, comes through, the one we were promising. Until that front comes through, we're unsettled and we're kind of stormy. But the front hits us Friday night into Saturday morning. Look at this beautiful weather for your weekend. Lots of sun, highs back in the mid-70s. We should be in the mid-70s this time of year. We'll go right back to where May should be. Going into next week, kind of interesting, something we're still working on. We think low pressure moves in to the Great Lakes and Ohio River Valley here by Wednesday and Thursday. Not expecting too much in terms of severe weather, but there could be rumbles of thunder. It is May. Any kind of rain cell comes in, could have some lightning and thunder with it. We'll have to see, though, how cool we get. We may be in the 60s for a couple days before we get to the Indy 500. So that forecast, that very important forecast at the track, is getting closer and closer. But before then, we may get a couple days of some cooler weather, maybe to balance everything out after the heat that we're about to get through Thursday and Friday.